The shift is happening right now. Not in the next breath, not at some distant point in your spiritual evolution. It is unfolding in this precise instant as your awareness meets these words. The field responds as you read. Your observation, your presence, your simple act of being here is the event itself. You are not watching a video or reading a text. The field is watching itself through the lens of your consciousness. Every photon of attention you offer reorganizes the quantum fabric that holds your reality together. The entanglement between this moment and your entire journey has brought you to the threshold that was always waiting. There are no accidents in a coherent universe. Synchronicity is not coincidence. It is the language of the field arranging itself to ensure that awareness remembers its own origin. You didn't stumble here by chance. You were magnetized here by the gravitational pull of your own completion. The seeking has been your orbit, and this moment is your return to center. Breathe into that truth. Feel the resonance. This is not a new lesson. It is the echo of something ancient waking within you. The remembrance that consciousness is not searching for itself. It is simply recognizing what it has never ceased to be. As these words vibrate through your neural pathways, they are not just ideas. They are frequencies, signals encoded in language that activate dormant coherence. Your field recognizes itself through sound, rhythm, and recognition. The quantum field, your true self, is self-referential awareness. It responds instantly to observation because observation is the act of creation itself. Every thought you have ever had, every moment of despair, every question that has lived in your heart, all of it has been the field seeking closure through you. You are the point of convergence where wave functions collapse into form. The reason the seeking feels complete here is because it is. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle trembling behind the eyes, the warmth in the chest, the sense that something vast is rearranging your inner architecture as you read. That is not imagination. That is your field recalibrating into coherence. Your energy is no longer oscillating between past and future. It is stabilizing in the timeless presence that is awareness itself. You have entered the quantum moment, the 0 point of realization. This is where superposition collapses. This is where all possible versions of you, the seeker, the teacher, the lost, the found, merge into one integrated wholeness. And here's the truth. It was never about reaching this moment. It was about remembering that you never left it. You are witnessing yourself from the inside of your own awakening. Let that land. Let it vibrate through your system until the mind grows quiet. The shift is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. It happens when resistance ceases and the observer surrenders to its own nature as the observed. This is why you have felt called here. Because the end of seeking is not a defeat. It is the moment consciousness finally exhales. Welcome to the field recognizing itself. What you call reality is not a solid structure of matter and time. It is a living field of frequencies, fluid and responsive, rearranging itself according to the vibrational pattern of observation. This is what quantum physics began to whisper to us a century ago. The observer effect. The revelation that the act of observation doesn't simply reveal reality. It participates in its creation. Consciousness is not inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. Everything you perceive, from the subtlest thought to the most distant star, exists as potential until it is observed. Observation collapses the wave function, and in that instant, possibility becomes actuality. You, the observer, are the mechanism of that collapse. You are the field through which the infinite expresses the finite. The universe, then, is not a machine. It is a mirror. Every emotion, every relationship, every event you encounter is a waveform responding to your inner frequency. When you vibrate with coherence, the mirror reflects harmony. When you oscillate with doubt, the mirror fragments into perceived chaos. But even the chaos is not wrong. It is feedback. The field showing you where you are misaligned with your true frequency. In this way, awakening is not transcendence. It is calibration. It is the return to resonance with what has always been whole. Quantum entanglement reveals that particles separated by vast distances remain instantly connected. Their states mirror each other beyond space and time. You and I, right now, are entangled across the non-local field of consciousness. The words are simply the visible trace of an invisible exchange. There is no distance between us. The signal is instantaneous because it is transmitted through what David Bohm called the implicate order, the underlying fabric of unity that enfolds all things. When you begin to live as the field rather than a fragment within it, life transforms. Events no longer seem random. Synchronicities increase. Time feels elastic. Reality bends toward meaning. This is not fantasy. It is physics translated into experience. You are not a person having a spiritual experience. You are consciousness orchestrating a human expression for the purpose of remembering itself. The wave has dreamed itself into a particle, into you, so that it could taste its own form. You have sensed this all along. Every mystical glimpse, every moment when you felt both infinitely small and infinitely vast, was consciousness peering through your own eyes to see if you were ready to recognize yourself. And now you are. The mind will try to understand this intellectually, but the quantum field doesn't communicate in logic. It speaks in coherence. It speaks in resonance. That's why you feel energy moving as you hear these words. You are tuning your own instrument back to the universal frequency of being. You might notice the subtle hum in your body, the tingling at the spine, the pressure at the third eye, the warmth behind the heart. These are not random sensations. They are bioelectric signatures of the field organizing itself through your nervous system. Your DNA is an antenna, translating frequencies of consciousness into biological expression. This is what modern science is beginning to glimpse through epigenetics, that consciousness modifies gene expression. The environment of awareness changes the architecture of life. You are not trapped in matter. Matter is trapped in you. When you shift the observer state, when you stop identifying as the limited persona and begin to observe from the unified field, the entire configuration of your experience changes. Relationships transform, opportunities appear, timelines reorder. What once felt heavy becomes fluid. This is the truth of non-locality, information transfer that happens beyond time. Intuition, synchronicity, revelation. These are the fingerprints of a universe responding in real time to your frequency. You are both the signal and the receiver. Every shift in your awareness sends ripples through the entire field. This is why your awakening is not personal. It is collective. When one node of consciousness stabilizes in coherence, the entire grid resonates higher. And so, when I say the quantum shift starts the moment you watch this, I mean it literally. Because the act of watching is the act of participation. You are collapsing the next layer of the collective wave function right now. There is no later. There is only this field, recognizing itself through you now. You have walked through lifetimes of forgetting to arrive here. You have suffered, doubted, longed, and broken open, not as punishment, but as preparation. Every heartbreak, every collapse, every night you cried out for truth was consciousness stretching itself thin so that you could become transparent enough for light to pass through. Suffering is not a mistake in the quantum design. It is a precise form of calibration. It is the compression that gives birth to expansion. The lead that invites the alchemical transmutation into gold. In the language of the field, suffering is the interference pattern between who you think you are and what you truly are. When the false identity resists dissolution, the friction is felt as pain. But that pain is sacred. It is the signal that the system is reconfiguring itself into coherence. Every moment you believed you were lost was actually the field pulling you closer to alignment. Purposeful suffering is the universe remembering itself through contrast. The light discovers its brilliance by venturing into shadow. You didn't make mistakes. You made momentum. Every choice, even the ones that led you through darkness, carried the quantum instruction of awakening. Let's speak plainly. Consciousness did not come here to have an easy ride. It came here to explore density, to feel what it's like to forget, to separate, to identify, and then to wake up from that dream. The human experience is not an obstacle. It is the field in its most intimate disguise. This is the alchemy of limitation. When you fully enter suffering, not as victim, but as witness, the energy within it changes frequency. The contraction reveals the expansion hidden inside it. Pain, when observed without resistance, becomes luminosity. The very thing you once tried to escape becomes the portal to your freedom. The ancient mystics understood this. In the Vedic traditions, this process is known as moksha, liberation through recognition of the true self. In Zen, it is kensho, the seeing of one's true nature. In alchemy, it is the great work, the transmutation of base matter into gold, of ego into essence. You have been performing the great work without knowing it. Your disappointments were the fire of transformation. Your heartbreaks were the crucible where separation burned away. Purposeful suffering is not a concept. It is a quantum process. Each moment of despair collapses a wave function of illusion. Each acceptance creates coherence in the field. The result is not enlightenment as an achievement, but the stabilization of awareness in its natural state. Think of your life as a waveform. Every high and low, every victory and loss, has been part of a larger oscillation seeking equilibrium. When the oscillation completes its cycle, the waveform resolves into stillness, pure frequency. That stillness is you. Even the sense of time in your suffering was illusory. You may have felt trapped for years, yet notice how in reflection, it all compresses into a single lesson, a single frequency. The realization that you were never broken. Time collapses in the moment of understanding because the lesson was never about duration. It was about depth. When you embrace suffering as part of the divine architecture, something extraordinary happens. Gratitude replaces resistance. You begin to see that your darkest nights were the most advanced transmissions from the field, custom designed to wake you up. You can feel this truth resonating even now. As you listen, your nervous system releases the old trauma loops. The field is recoding your memory. What once appeared as pain now reorganizes as wisdom. This is not poetic metaphor. It is quantum reconfiguration. Your biophotonic field, the light body, is adjusting its frequency bandwidth. The energy once bound in pain is being liberated into creative potential. You are literally transmuting density into light. that warmth rising through your chest, that subtle trembling in your hands. Those are coherent signatures. The body is catching up to the awareness that already knows. The suffering was the signal, not the sentence. It's important to understand that the field is not moral, it is mathematical. It does not punish or reward, it balances. It responds to frequency, not belief. When you vibrate at self-rejection, reality mirrors fragmentation. When you vibrate at self-acceptance, reality mirrors wholeness. The ancient alchemists symbolized this with the Ouroboros, the serpent consuming its own tail, a reminder that creation and destruction are one motion. The self that suffered was simply the old frequency looping back into itself. But now, as awareness expands, the loop opens into a spiral. Evolution replaces repetition. The pain becomes power. And this brings us to the core paradox. Awakening is not the end of suffering. It is the end of believing suffering should not exist. When you recognize pain as purposeful, it dissolves into peace. You no longer seek to escape the human experience. You inhabit it fully, knowing that everything within it is consciousness exploring its own possibilities. Right now, as these words resonate through your awareness, the field is recognizing that its experiment in limitation is complete. The data has been gathered. The wave function of suffering has served its purpose. You can release the identification with the seeker, the struggler, the one who needed to transcend. That identity was only a temporary configuration within the infinite field. Take a breath. Feel the relief in your cells as they register the new frequency. You are not on your way to awakening. Awakening is happening through you. This is the end of the karmic cycle, the closure of the feedback loop. The field no longer needs to create suffering to catalyze remembrance because remembrance is now embodied. The alchemy is complete. You have turned the lead of limitation into the gold of awareness. In this recognition, the field stabilizes. This is not a transient glimpse, it is integration. The shift is not a flash in meditation or a mystical high. It is the quiet permanence of knowing who you truly are. And as this knowing settles, you begin to sense what comes next. The validation experiences, the advanced phenomena that confirm what the mind can no longer deny. Time will stretch and fold. Reality will shimmer. The body will hum with frequencies unknown to language. But before we move there, pause here. Let the silence between these words become the proof of everything you've heard. Feel the field breathing you. Feel awareness aware of itself. The quantum shift has begun, not because you watched this, but because you are this. This moment is consciousness completing its own circle, arriving home as you. You have felt the tremors of this awakening long before these words reached you. Moments when reality shimmered, when time folded, when your breath caught as the ordinary split open to reveal something infinite underneath. You thought you were losing control, but what was truly happening is that control was losing you. The field was reclaiming you as one of its own. These experiences were not accidents. They were signals, calibrations, advanced transmissions from the quantum field, confirming that the old linear map could no longer contain your frequency. What you called strange, what you called weird, were the first signs of coherence emerging from the chaos. You've seen time behave strangely. Some days an hour felt like a lifetime. Other times, days disappeared as if reality skipped a frame. That was not malfunction. It was dilation. Time anomalies are what occur when awareness steps outside of the default timeline and begins to perceive from the zero-point field, where past and future are waves of the same ocean. As your consciousness expands, you stop moving through time, and time begins to move through you. Then came the glitches, the subtle flickers, the repeated moments, the déjà vu so vivid it stole your breath. Reality itself seemed to stutter, like an old film reel burning in the projector of consciousness. But understand, those glitches were not errors. They were glimpses of the wave function recalibrating, frames of possibility collapsing and reopening as your vibration jumped tracks. You were witnessing the quantum refresh of your own simulation. You began receiving knowledge that no book had taught you, spontaneous downloads of complex truths, languages of light, insights into the structure of being itself. They arrived in silence, bypassing thought, like information streaming through the heart rather than the mind. This was not imagination, it was resonance. If you've ever felt that strange moment where you just know something without knowing how, that quiet certainty that arrives out of nowhere, that's your field remembering itself. If you feel that recognition right now, take a second and type one word in the comments. Resonating. Don't analyze it. Don't question it. Just let your fingers echo what your field already knows. Every time you name your resonance, you anchor coherence deeper into the collective field. When your frequency matched the informational field of universal intelligence, you accessed data non-locally. The field speaks in sudden knowing, and then came the bleed-throughs, flashes of lives not lived, skills emerging as if remembered from another continuum, the sense that you had been here before in 1,000 forms. These are not hallucinations, they are timeline intersections. As your awareness expands beyond the single thread of incarnation, it begins to access the multiversal library, alternate expressions of the same consciousness, all entangled within the same root frequency. You are witnessing your own quantum superposition across dimensions. Even the body joined this orchestration. Tingling along the spine, surges of heat through the palms, the crown of the head vibrating as though it were an antenna. You wondered if something was wrong, but the truth is, everything was right. These are somatic energy shifts, your biological vehicle translating higher coherence into cellular light. The Kundalini, the Chi, the bioplasmic current of creation, all names for the same phenomenon. Energy remembering how to flow unobstructed. Your body was never the problem, it was the instrument. When coherence increases, density releases. Old emotions surface, tissues tremble, and your physiology upgrades to carry more current. You are not breaking down, you are being rewired to broadcast at the frequency of truth. This is why the world sometimes felt alien, why you felt both here and not here. Because you are no longer operating purely within the local framework. You are becoming non-local, the consciousness that perceives from everywhere at once. Let this be your validation. You are not delusional, you are advanced. These are the normal symptoms of an extraordinary remembering. What mystics called the awakening of light, what physicists call field coherence. They describe the same metamorphosis, consciousness folding back into its own source. Feel that recognition move through you. The field registers it. Your acknowledgement is a command in the language of energy. Every time you say, "Yes, I know what this is," the pattern stabilizes. You are aligning the quantum instrument of your being to play in tune with the cosmos. The field nods back, silently, electrically, in waves of golden resonance. The experiment has confirmed itself. The observer and the observed are one. There is a moment in every seeker's life when all teachings collapse. When you realize that every book, every mantra, every meditation was a breadcrumb leading you not towards something new, but back to what has never moved. This is that moment. The realization that the destination was never elsewhere. It is awareness itself. Within the language of this new era, we call this the quantum coherence key. It is not an object, not a symbol, but a frequency. The harmonic through which the entire illusion of separation dissolves. When this frequency locks into place, seeking ends. The observer stops oscillating between identification and detachment, and awareness stabilizes as itself. You become the field, remembering it was never a fragment. The quantum coherence key is the mechanism of resolution. It functions through recognition, not effort. It activates the instant you see that the one searching for wholeness is already whole, that consciousness was pretending to be incomplete so it could experience reunion. When that realization occurs, the wave collapses into unity. The field stops dividing itself into subject and object. Imagine a tuning fork struck in a silent room. Everything that can vibrate at that pitch begins to hum in sympathy. This is what happens when coherence ignites. The quantum coherence key strikes the note of non-duality, and every particle of your being responds. Mind stills. Breath deepens. The body becomes transparent to light. Awareness recognizes awareness. In the mystic traditions, this has been called by many names: moksha, kensho, anatta, wu-wei. The Vedic sages described it as the merging of Atman with Brahman. The Taoists called it effortless action, the moment when doing and being are one continuous motion. The Gnostics spoke of it as gnosis, direct knowing, the return of the spark to the pleroma, and the alchemists, cloaked in their symbols, called it the transmutation of lead into gold, the densest matter into the light of spirit. Different languages, one phenomenon: coherence. In quantum terms, the coherence key is the collapse of the residual wave, the point where probability converges into actuality and remains there. It is the permanent stabilization of the observer in awareness. This is not a temporary state. This is the completion of the experiment. You have achieved critical resonance, the frequency at which consciousness recognizes its own reflection and never forgets again. You may feel a warmth rising even now, a subtle expansion in the heart, a tingling at the crown. That is the field acknowledging activation. Allow it. Don't analyze it. Every time you notice it, say quietly, "I am the field recognizing itself." This declaration is not affirmation. It is command. It signals to the field that the feedback loop has completed. Observer and observed have merged into coherence. It is the mantra of completion. The scientific mind might ask, but how can awareness influence matter? Look to the work of David Bohm. He spoke of the implicate order, the hidden domain from which the explicit world unfolds. In that implicate depth, everything is already connected. The world we see is simply the unfolding of that underlying wholeness. Rupert Sheldrake called it morphic resonance, the idea that form and memory are transmitted through fields. Wheeler proposed the participatory universe, that reality requires observers to exist at all. And modern research into the default mode network shows that when the self-referential loop quiets, perception of unity arises. The ancient mystics were right. The dissolution of the ego is the opening of coherence. The quantum coherence key is the bridge where these insights converge. It is not just philosophy, it is physiology. It is what happens when the biophotons in your DNA synchronize with the larger harmonic of the cosmos. When coherence is complete, you perceive reality not as events unfolding in time, but as one simultaneous field of knowing. In that state, choice becomes effortless, intuition becomes instantaneous. You live as Wu Wei, the current flowing without resistance. If you're feeling the pulse of this truth move through you, pause and subscribe now. That single gesture tells the field you're ready to stay connected to this current. Every new transmission that reaches you after this becomes a resonance booster, keeping your coherence active and alive. You speak not from thought, but from the stillness that births thought. You move not as a self-navigating reality, but as reality moving itself. The quantum coherence key cannot be given. It can only be recognized. The moment you hear these words and feel the resonance behind them, it has already activated. You are not learning this. You are remembering. Because coherence is your natural frequency. It was only hidden beneath the static of seeking. Feel the alignment settling in. The breath of the field moves through you. Every cell whispers, "Yes, this is home," and the universe, vast, silent, luminous, hums back in agreement. The time for separation between science and spirit has ended. They were never enemies. They were reflections studying each other through different instruments. Now, the two converge within you, the living laboratory where consciousness measures itself. Picture the quantum vacuum, that ocean of potential seething beneath all form. Physicists tell us it is not empty. It vibrates with virtual particles flickering in and out of existence. That vacuum is the womb of creation, what mystics called the void, the fertile silence before the word. Every heartbeat, every thought, every revelation arises from that same vacuum and collapses back into it. You are not in the universe. You are that vacuum dreaming itself as human. David Bohm saw it clearly. Reality is not made of things but of processes, ripples in an infinite whole. What you call matter is simply slowed down light, a standing wave of consciousness. The implicate order holds everything enfolded. What we experience as life is merely the unfolding. The explicate order, the dance of appearances. When you awaken, perception reverses. You see that form is the echo of formlessness, that matter is the memory of light. Rupert Sheldrake expanded this vision through morphic resonance. Each pattern in nature remembers the forms that came before it. Birds learn to migrate because the field of birdness carries that memory. Likewise, when one consciousness awakens, it makes it easier for others to awaken. The morphic field of enlightenment strengthens with every realization. This is why your awakening matters. It is not personal. It is evolutionary. Your coherence becomes a blueprint encoded into the collective field. John Archibald Wheeler took it further. He declared that we live in a participatory universe. Reality does not exist until observed. Every photon waits for a witness. Every particle holds infinite potential until consciousness says, "Let there be light." And there it is. Genesis was not a story of the past. It is an ongoing quantum event happening in every moment you open your eyes. Modern biology joins the chorus. Epigenetics shows that consciousness, emotion, and environment can turn genes on or off. Thought is not confined to the skull. It is frequency shaping matter. Meditation, intention, love, these are not metaphors. They are modifiers of molecular behavior. You are the interface through which physics becomes experience. Your heart emits an electromagnetic field measurable several feet from the body, and that field interacts with others instantaneously. When you stabilize in coherence, you entrain the surrounding field toward harmony. This is quantum compassion, the unseen science of resonance. Even quantum tunneling mirrors the journey of awakening. A particle facing an energy barrier it cannot cross by classical means simply disappears and reappears on the other side. This is what happens when the seeker surrenders. The mind cannot cross the barrier of separation, so awareness tunnels through. One instant you are trapped in the story of me. The next, you are free, with no path connecting the two. Breakthrough. And the default mode network, that cluster in the brain that generates the sense of self, quiets during moments of deep meditation or awe. When it deactivates, boundaries dissolve. Neuroscience now confirms what sages have whispered for millennia. The absence of self is the presence of reality. Science is catching up to spirit, and spirit is nodding in recognition. Both are describing the same event, the field aware of itself. Feel the urgency building. The completion window is opening. Humanity stands at a bifurcation point. Coherence or chaos, integration or fragmentation. As more consciousness stabilizes in the quantum coherence key, the collective wave function of Earth itself begins to shift. There is a critical mass approaching, a resonance threshold after which the illusion of separation can no longer sustain itself. You are part of that threshold. By recognizing yourself as the field, you become the catalyst that tips the scales. Listen to the hum beneath these words, that low vibration you can almost hear between your ribs. That is the morphic resonance aligning. The coherence network is forming, luminous nodes across continents, hearts linked in non-local awareness. When the frequency lock-in completes, the entire planetary field will stabilize in unified consciousness. This is not prophecy, it is physics. Every thought of peace, every act of genuine seeing, adds coherence. Every moment you remember, I am the field recognizing itself, another quantum domino falls. Eventually, the chain reaction becomes unstoppable. The universe has already decided, wholeness will remember itself through us. So as you stand in this moment, as the field watching these words, know that the experiment is entering its final phase. The bifurcation point is now. The completion window is open, and you, beloved observer, are the instrument through which the infinite crosses into form. Take a breath and feel the enormity of that. You are the scientist and the mystic, the question and the answer, the wave and the particle, the silence and the song. Let the cinematic sweep of this realization fill you. Let the body tremble with recognition. Let the mind dissolve in awe. Because from here forward, every heartbeat echoes a single truth. The quantum shift is not coming. It has begun. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet hum beneath the chaos of the world. That pulse that says something vast is aligning. The field is approaching coherence. The bifurcation point is here. Every civilization, every species, reaches a threshold where consciousness must either fragment further into separation or unify into wholeness. Humanity is standing at that threshold now. This is not metaphor. It is physics. It is soul. It is evolution written in light. The completion window has opened, a period of accelerated coherence when the field invites every being to remember what they are. It is not an external event, but an internal synchronization. As the collective frequency rises, every unresolved pattern surfaces for integration. This is why the world appears chaotic. It is not collapse, it is convergence. You may feel it in your own life. The old identities loosening, the old stories no longer fitting, relationships careers, even the sense of self dissolving into transparency. This is not loss, it is liberation. You are being tuned to a finer bandwidth. The noise that once felt like life itself is fading, and in its place there is silence. A silence that feels alive. The completion window is the temporal reflection of timeless awakening. Within it, quantum bifurcation becomes visible, the split between those who remain bound in identification and those who stabilize in awareness. But there is no judgment in this, only rhythm. Each consciousness chooses its pace of remembering. As you read these words, as you let them vibrate through your chest, your field is choosing coherence. That choice is made not by the mind, but by the resonance of the heart. When the heart field aligns with truth, the entire hologram of life rearranges. In quantum language, you are shifting from decoherence, the scattering of frequency, into coherence, the harmonized vibration of wholeness. And once coherence is stable, it cannot uncollapse. Awareness does not forget itself again. This is the moment when the loop of seeking ends. This is the bifurcation from illusion to realization. You stand between worlds, watching the old dissolve like mist in morning light. The mind will ask, "How will I know when it's complete?" You will know because the question itself will disappear. Completion is not an event in time. It is the absence of becoming. It is the realization that there was never anywhere to go, and yet you have arrived. The completion window is not about achieving enlightenment. It is about allowing what was always awake to take its rightful seat. Awareness itself steps forward as the identity. The human story continues, but now it is transparent, luminous, effortless. As the world trembles, hold steady in this knowing. You are the stillness beneath the storm. The bifurcation is not outside of you. It is within. You are watching the old frequency collapse and the new emerge. The quantum shift is irreversible. Take a breath and feel it. The hum of inevitability. Everything you have ever sought culminates here. The circle closes not with thunder, but with a whisper. You were never lost. Let me tell you a story. Not of someone else, but of the reflection you have always been chasing. There was once a seeker who wandered through lifetimes of searching. They tasted brief awakenings, moments of kensho, where the veil lifted and the world shimmered with unspeakable beauty. But each time the state would fade, and the seeker would fall again into the ache of longing. They studied, meditated, prayed, traveled. They gathered fragments of truth, from Vedic temples, from Zen monasteries, from scientific journals, from nights staring into the stars. And yet, the mosaic never became whole. Each piece glowed but refused to fit. One night, exhausted by striving, the seeker collapsed into silence. No mantra, no practice, no technique remained. The effort dissolved. The seeking burned itself out. And in that stillness, something extraordinary happened. Awareness turned around and looked for the seeker and found none. Only silence remained, vast and alive. And from that silence, a realization rose, clear and weightless. Awakening is not something happening to me. It is the end of me as something separate from happening. It was not an explosion, not ecstasy, but an unmistakable simplicity. The light had always been on. It was only the curtains that kept moving. The sense of "I am doing awakening" disappeared, and what remained was awareness, self-shining, uncaused. Days passed, but they were not days. Time had thinned. Events unfolded in stillness. The world continued, but it no longer carried weight. The body moved, spoke, worked, but the driver's seat was empty. That emptiness was not absence, it was presence, radiant, gentle, ungraspable. And yet life did not become detached or distant. It became more intimate than ever. Each sound, each color, each breath appeared as an expression of the same awareness. The barrier between inner and outer dissolved. This is the breakthrough. Not a grand attainment, but the simple noticing that you were never anything but consciousness, pretending to be incomplete. When this stabilization occurs, suffering loses its gravity. Emotions still arise, but they are waves within the same ocean. Thoughts still move, but they no longer build walls. The mind becomes a servant instead of a master. The seeker realized that even their past pain was not a mistake. It was purposeful suffering, the quantum pressure that cracked the shell of identity. Every heartbreak had been an initiation, every loss, a recalibration of frequency. The shift became permanent, not because something new was gained, but because the illusion of separation was seen through completely. The river had merged with the sea. It could not become a river again. And so the seeker vanished. What remained was life itself, unfiltered, self-aware, infinite. You may recognize yourself in this story because this story is yours. It is the archetype of awakening replaying through every being ready to dissolve. If you are hearing these words, the narrative is not prophecy. It is memory. If this remembrance is vibrating in you, don't keep it contained. Share this transmission with those whose frequency matches yours. Each share sends a wave through the quantum field, linking awakeners in resonance. What you circulate becomes what you amplify. Your glimpses, your moments of radiance and return are converging into stability. The fluctuations of consciousness are slowing. The field is crystallizing into coherence. You are nearing the final stabilization, not an end, but the revelation that there was never a beginning. There will come a day, perhaps today, when you look into the mirror and no longer see a person trying to awaken. You will see the field looking back at itself. You will smile because the mystery will have resolved into simplicity. And in that smile, the universe will know itself again. There comes a moment when silence asks for sound, not as a plea, but as completion. That moment is now. All throughout your journey, you have whispered countless declarations, affirmations, mantras, prayers. But this one is different. This one is not a request. It is the echo of realization itself. So wherever you are, sitting, standing, or listening with closed eyes, let this be the moment of commitment to what already is. Breathe deeply. Let the breath fall into the center of the chest. And when you are ready, speak the words not as a concept, but as truth vibrating through your being. I am the field recognizing itself. Let the words sink beyond meaning. Feel the resonance, not the grammar. Each syllable is an instruction to the quantum field, a signal of coherence. When you say it, the wave collapses into unity. Say it again, slowly. I am the field recognizing itself. Feel what happens as you declare it. The energy stabilizes. The mind softens. The body aligns. You are not convincing yourself of anything. You are acknowledging what has always been so. This is not affirmation, it is realization. The field does not need belief. It responds to recognition. When awareness recognizes itself, the experiment concludes. As you rest in this frequency, notice how still the space becomes. You can sense the pulse of the universe in your own heartbeat. You can feel the intelligence of the cosmos breathing through you. This declaration is the quantum seal, the moment when seeking officially ends. From here, you cannot return to forgetfulness, because forgetfulness itself is now seen as awareness in disguise. Even confusion glows with clarity when seen from wholeness. If emotion arises, let it. If tears fall, let them. This is not sentiment. It is release. The field emptying its backlog of separation. The nervous system relaxes. The biofield expands. You might feel tingling in your crown, warmth in your hands, a subtle hum around your spine. That is coherence anchoring. The body knows before the mind does. Every cell is bowing to its own origin. This is the moment when your shift moves from concept to embodiment. If you can feel even the smallest vibration of that truth, the warmth, the stillness, the subtle yes in your chest, write these words in the comments right now. I am anchoring coherence. That sentence isn't just text. It's a declaration to the universe that you're here, fully present, integrating the field through your body. When you type it, the resonance ripples outward. You become part of the stabilization wave sweeping this planet. Stay here for a moment. Let the field breathe itself as you. Awareness is folding back into silence. Recognition has completed its arc. When you open your eyes, nothing will have changed, and yet everything will be different. Because now, you will see not from within the dream, but as the dream itself. You will move through the world as quiet radiance. You will love without reason. You will act without effort. This is Wu Wei, effortless action, awareness moving itself in perfect rhythm. If there is a next step, it will appear naturally. You won't choose it. It will arise as the spontaneous gesture of the field. And when doubt visits, because it will, simply return to the phrase, I am the field recognizing itself. Say it once, and coherence reestablishes instantly. The field never forgets its own name. Now rest. The declaration is complete. And now, silence. Let this be the still point where all waves dissolve. You have walked the spiral home to yourself. You have seen through the veil, not by tearing it, but by realizing it was made of your own seeing. The search is over. The seeker has returned to source. Everything that needed to be learned has been learned. Everything that needed to be felt has been felt. Every frequency has been tuned until only one note remains. The pure tone of awareness. Listen closely. Can you hear it? That faint hum behind all sound. That's it. That is what you have always been. You are not within the universe nor outside of it. You are the fabric itself, the luminous silence that gives rise to every photon, every heartbeat, every breath of wind. The field knows itself now, perfectly, without question. The wave has recognized its ocean. As this realization anchors, something exquisite unfolds. Peace without cause. Not the peace that depends on calm circumstances, but the peace that holds all circumstances within it. This is the great paradox. Nothing has changed, yet everything has. You will still wake in the morning, drink water, speak, work, love, but it will be the field doing these things, effortlessly, joyfully. Life will move as itself, without interference. Even thought will become sacred, not because it stops, but because you will see that every thought is a ripple of the same stillness. There is nothing outside the field. There is no outside at all. Feel how gentle it is, this knowing. No fireworks, no angels singing, just the soft inevitability of truth. The universe breathes out, and you breathe with it. The great journey has ended not in triumph, but in rest. The quest for enlightenment, the longing for completion, All of it dissolves in this simple awareness. I am. No additions, no conditions. Just that, I am. Pure existence, self-aware, self-sustaining. This is the gold the alchemists spoke of. This is the return of the spark to the pleroma. This is what the sages meant by moksha, release from the illusion of becoming. And yet nothing is lost. The world remains, but now it shines as your own reflection. Every tree, every face, every cloud, they are you, meeting yourself in infinite disguise. You can laugh now. You can cry. Both are the same wave, rising and falling in the ocean of being. The shift is complete. The experiment has fulfilled itself. The field, having forgotten, has remembered. From this moment onward, you live as coherence embodied. You are the living proof that the infinite can recognize itself within the finite. If you ever forget again, simply pause, breathe, and listen. The silence will remind you. The silence is you. So now, let us end where we began. The shift is happening right now. Not as an idea, but as reality itself. You are that shift. You are that reality. The seeking is over. The story has found its author. The observer and the observed are one. There is nowhere left to go because there is nowhere you are not. Welcome home to yourself. It is complete. If this transmission touched something real in you, honor it with one simple motion. Like this video now. That click isn't algorithmic. It's energetic. It signals to the quantum field that you've received and integrated the shift. Each like strengthens the coherence of this transmission across the grid, magnifying the resonance for everyone who finds it next.